Hello, 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 hello. I, I don't have the rights to this song. Today is Monday, BFF, Building Fruitful Friendships Monday. I'm back. I was away last week, but I'm here today. Asking a question, why can't we be friends? Y'all remember the song? I don't know the year it came out. It was by War. Why can't we be friends? I do not own the rights to this song. How's everybody's day? Hope you all had a blessed day, a prosperous day, a blessed day, a godly day. That's the question. That's the question of the night. It's Pastor Lydia Ford. Pastor. Haven't heard this song in eons. Anyway, Pastor Lydia Ford. Pastor, don't forget to say your prayers. Located in Bloomfield, Connecticut. I'm pastor, teacher. I'm author. I'm a mentor, spiritual mother, and spiritual daughter to others. BFF, good friend, acquaintance, co-laborer in Christ, all of the above. Glory to God. One of my areas of specialty is to minister to those who have gone through bereavement, who have suffered losses, whether it's a loss of a loved one, loss of job, employment, sickness, because there are many different types of losses. So I consider myself, I would say, not a PhD, but someone that is acquainted with loss, that has been through very traumatic experiences. And I've lost some friendships along the way as well as friends, loved ones, very, very close family members, daughter, husband, father, brother, uncle, grandmother, all of the above. And so that, hi, Miss Rivers, how are you? That gives me some validity, some credence that I do know what I'm talking about. I am an author of 3 books. All of the books, love you too. All of my books are on Amazon.com. and or Amazon, and you can get them online through Amazon, or you can purchase them directly from me. My first book was entitled Don't Forget to Say Your Prayers, which I wrote after my daughter, my firstborn, my daughter Danielle, passed in 2010. And my second book is entitled Carest Thou Not That I Perish in the Midst of the Storm. About a year after, exactly 1 year to the date after my daughter died, my husband, Tom Ford, of 37 years, he also passed. And that's when I wrote my second book. I was like, I didn't have any words. I was like stunned. I was shocked. It was unexpected. It happened very fast. And after he passed, I found myself asking God, what's going on? What is it? What did I do to deserve this? What's going on? Don't you even care what I'm going through? Don't you care that I live or die? Don't you care that I perish? Don't you care that I lose my mind? I lost my daughter, lost my husband. And as a matter of fact, 30 days after my husband died, his oldest sister died in 2011, close to, I think it was on, he died in October 2011. She died on Thanksgiving. That was a month later. So my daughter was my husband. It was my sister-in-law. But I had questions for God. It's like, what's going on, God? I don't understand this. I don't understand why you would put me through this twice. And so I wrote my second book, Carest Thou Not That I Perish in the Midst of a Storm. And I do admit that I was going through a storm, but praise God, He brought me out. And when He brought me out, He brought me up with my hands still raised. He brought me up with my faith intact. He brought me up with a shout, with a worship, with a praise. You know, he brought me out so that, hey, Kim, that I would be not bitter, but better, that all the misery that I had to go through would actually birth out a ministry. So this was my third book, From Broken Bread to Poured Out Wine. This is a testimony of the goodness and the graciousness of God and how he is able to take you through bereavement and bring you out on the other side. Not jacked up, messed up, tore from the floor up, but bring you out so that you have a testimony for your test. And so this is my celebratory book that just kind of, and it's the shortest book, just telling people, it's kind of like an acknowledgement of my journey through the bereavement process. It's very short, and it talks about how you can gain comfort and peace from God. It talks about what to do to celebrate your loved one's death once you have really come to grips with it, you've accepted it. Talks about different ways to celebrate the first anniversary. Talks about how you can grow from the pain and the loss of your loved ones. It talks about change, how you go through changes, and how you definitely, once you've been through the fire, you've been on that potter's wheel, when you come out, you're definitely not the same person that you were when you went in. It's like you shed. It's like a snake when the season comes for him to shed his old skin. He has to crawl out. He sheds a little bit at a time, but once he comes out, he has a brand new skin. And that's what God wants us to do with us. He doesn't want us groping. He don't want us, living in fear, wondering when the next shoe is going to drop, when the next person is going to die, that we're close to. He wants us to come up with a hallelujah, with a praise on our lips. He wants us to come out in victory. And so I'm your reinvention coach, if you want to say it like that, your reinvention mentor, someone that can help you to come to grips with your pain, your agony from bereavement, someone that can help you develop strategies and practices of self-care so that you're not carrying this load of grief on your heart and in your mind, because it can affect your physical body as well. So I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and let you know who I am. Again, I'm here to talk about BFF tonight. I'm going to come back hopefully this week and talk about another topic related to loss, which is miscarriage. I've been promising to talk about miscarriage, and I haven't talked about that particular type of loss. So I want to deal with that a little bit later in the week. But tonight I am here to talk about a topic we talked about before, and it's why your pastor is actually not your friend. I did that a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I need to just kind of elaborate and talk about it just a little bit more, because I saw some responses that were kind of negative, or kind of the opposite. They took the opposite, the opposite position, that if you're a pastor and if you're walking, if you're a person of integrity and you're walking in the fruit of the Spirit, you're a shepherd over your flock, then why not be friends with members of your congregate? It's kind of antithetical to even the nature and the temperament and the characteristics of Jesus Christ, who the scribes and the Pharisees got angry with him because they called him, he was a wine bibber. He eats with sinners and tax collectors. Jesus was a friend to those that he encountered. There was no racism. There was no prejudice within him. He loved people. Whenever he saw people in need, even before he started talking to them, in parables or whatever, and even before he started preaching the gospel, he met their need, whether it's healing the man that was laying at the pool for 38 years, whether it was ministering to the woman of Samaria when she came to Jacob's well, whether it was healing the man that had the withered hand. Before he started preaching the gospel, he met the people's needs, and many of them followed him. And he chose 12. He chose 12 fellows, ordinary men, not men of high esteem and importance. They, prosperous, rich people, but just ordinary men. They were fishermen. They were tax collectors, and he befriended them. He called them his friends. And he even among the 12, there were 3 that were his boys. They were, real close. They were definitely the BFFs. They was Peter, James, and John. And whenever he went in to do a healing or to raise someone from the dead. Those were the three that he took in with him. So Jesus had friends. He was intimate with his disciples. So I thought, let me just revisit this, because there was a person that was kind of critical, when I did the first Facebook Live, and I was saying, I don't think really pastors should, I agreed maybe 50-50 that pastors should have friends among the congregants. And so let me just kind of review a little bit of what I said. And the 2 weeks ago, the topic was why your pastor is actually not your friend. So let me just say a few things to review what we talked about the last time. It says your pastor is not your friend. It's hard because they feel like they are. And I can testify to that. I feel like I am friends with the members of my church. And this is not a hard and fast rule, by the way. Some pastors do make a friend in the congregation, someone that they can absolutely be themselves with. But that needs to be rare. That does not need to be the rule and does not need to be the norm. It may not always be rare, and then things get fuzzy, but I believe it needs to be rare for you and for them. So this person takes the notion that, even though you may like some people in your congregation, you may like some more than others, it's not really a good idea to make friends with people in your congregation. He said, here's the truth. One day you're going to have to tell them, meaning your pastor, something that you can't tell a friend, something about yourself, a deep truth that maybe only your best friend might know. The problem is they, meaning your friend, is not going to give you what you need about that topic because they're too entangled. They're too engrossed in the friendship. And that's why you need a pastor. You need a pastor. You need someone to be objective. You need someone not close to the thing that needs to be fixed, okay, or dealt with. You need someone close enough to you to care, someone with some sort of authority, but also someone far enough away from you that you're not going to hold it as the primary thing that they know about you. Because pastors are trained in the art of really not hearing what we hear. I thought this was so funny last time. I'm going to say that again. Pastors are trained in the art of really not hearing what we hear. People sometimes worry that a pastor's view of them will be tainted by something they learn or know. But I can assure you, we learn and know so much about everyone that we've come to the conclusion that everybody is just as messed up and jacked up and tore up from the floor as we are, ourselves included. For example, the CEO of a huge corporation with boats and houses is just as dissatisfied as a person living paycheck to paycheck. They're just, watch this, they're just as unhinged at a different point in their personhood. And here's another thing. By and large, you need your pastor to be the pastor, not a friend. And your pastor's not your friend if they're doing it well. Plus, your pastor can never confide in you the way one confides in a friend. Your pastor cannot confide in you the way one confides in a friend. Here's another point. Plus, if you and your pastor are friends, then your pastor can never leave. We have friends that we want to remain friends with them. We don't want them to leave. We don't want them to abandon us. So your pastor can never leave. As if leaving a parish, leaving your church isn't hard enough. The idea of leaving not only parish parishioners, but also friends makes it impossible. You know what happens sometimes when pastors get called to another church. Then what happens to those relationships? Especially if you form intimate, close relationships, it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave people. It's bad for the vocation. It's bad for any hobby. It's bad for any minor occupation that you might share with somebody else. Now, it does not mean, watch this, it doesn't mean that you don't kid around with your pastor. Doesn't mean that you don't drop by and say hi. Doesn't and that you don't do things for one another like you would do with your own friends. Doesn't mean that you don't even sometimes take trips together with your pastor, play sports, attend birthday parties, and so many other things that you would do with regular friends. And it certainly doesn't mean that you don't share many of the same qualities that you would with a friend. We want pastors that have some of the same qualities that we look for in our friends. Pastors can open up to a point. Pastors can kid around to a point. But everything is to a point. Y'all getting the point? Everything's to a point. And that point is exactly where the collar hits what you need from them. In every situation, they're the pastor. They still gonna be the pastor, y'all. Which is just a very different way of being more than just a friend. Got 2 more points, and I'm gonna go on to today's conversation. Finally, one thing we have to be really clear-eyed about: friendships do end. They do. Friends fight. They squabble. They hurt each other's feelings. Come on. They get jealous, get enmeshed, they get entangled with one another's stuff. Pastors who become friends run the risk of ruining the pastoral relationship when the friendship is over. This is just plain bad for the office of the pastor. It's a bad risk to take. And most of us pastors do not want to take that risk because it's not worth it. Finally, here's another point. We're not the only professions that suffer from this little fuzzy thing of, should we be friends with someone in our congregation, or should we kind of, stay a little, put a little distance there. This person is saying that one of his very best friends is a doctor. He says, I casually ask him for medical advice sometimes, but if push comes to shove, he'd refer me to someone else for a serious diagnosis. You don't want your best friend giving you a diagnosis when you want to know the truth. You don't want your friends, hinging and, maybe telling partial truths because they're afraid they'll hurt your feelings. They're afraid that it will cause fear. No, if you're friends with a doctor, or a doctor's friends with you, your doctor should say, we too close, boy. Man, we too close. Girl, we too close. I'm just going to refer you to so-and-so doctor, this, that, and the other. He can be more objective. He can give you better advice because I'm too close. I love you too much. I don't want to mess you up. I don't want to give you, build up your hopes and, something else might happen. And then I'll feel all guilty. I'll feel jacked up. All right. Here's another profession, a financial advisor. He says, I ask him for financial advice sometimes, but he can't manage my money. Okay, if you have an accountant, if you have a financial advisor, you don't go to them for financial advice, especially if they're your close friend. You need to go to somebody that's objective, that don't know your credit history, that don't have access to your bank account, that don't know your business. Come on, y'all ain't giving me no hearts. You too close to get financial advice from your BFF, because what might have worked for your BFF may not be working for you. That's why you got to, these are 2 professions, doctors and financiers. You don't want them to give you advice because they're too close to you. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a highlight. Hey, Didi Magoo, my best friend from Schenectady, New York, Summit Avenue, Mumford Street. Hey, all right. I just wanted to give you a little bit of highlight of what we talked about yesterday. Today we're revisiting this thing of, should pastors be friends with their congregants, with members. Some people that reacted to what I said, why not? Christ was a friend. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry. He was friends with publicans and sinners, and, the woman with the issue. But he had friends. His disciples were his close friends. So let's get on to tonight, because I got a few other things I want to talk about with dealing with this subject. Should pastors be close friends with church members? It says here, ministry can be a lonely profession. I think 3 Mondays ago, I talked about the importance of the fact that pastors need friends. Y'all just don't understand this pastorate thing. This can be the loneliest job in the world. This can be the loneliest vocation in the world. We're constantly surrounded by people. But when we go home at night, sometimes we ain't got nobody to talk to, especially if you're single. If you're a single woman, a widower, or, maybe you divorced or whatever, and you're a pastor. And even some of the men, some male pastors, they are lonely because they ain't got no friends. They don't have anybody to confide in. Even if they have a wife, some things you can't tell the first lady. Some things you can't burden your wife with. Anyhow, pastors may feel like lay people cannot relate to them. They feel that the congregation, the members, they can't relate to them. And church members can easily isolate ministers unintentionally. Sometimes even people in the congregation, they kind of stay away. They distance themselves, from pastors. They don't want to get too close. I don't know if they're scared of the anointing, or I don't know if they feel fire going to come down because if they some guilt or some sin they might be hiding. I don't know. But some people don't want to get too close to the pastor, to the bishop, to the apostle. Of course, loneliness is a problem throughout society. More than half of the United States population, that's 54% of the people, are lonely, according to the 2018 survey from Cigna Health and Life Insurance Company in the market research firm called Ipsos, IPSOS. But pastors face a unique dilemma, since figuring out where to find friends can be just as difficult as forming those relationships. Just trying to figure out who you can talk to, who you can confide in, who could be your BFF. That's hard for a pastor. We can't just lay everything out there. I said it before. Some things, some sins, some secret stuff, some things in your background, in your history, in your DNA, in your ancestry, you just can't tell everybody, because some people can't handle your sin. Some people can't handle some of your issues. You don't want to be telling people about your addictions. You don't want to be telling people about some people can't handle that. And some people won't follow you if they know too much about you. Y'all better say something out there. Hello? Like everyone else, pastors need friends. I said that. And it only makes sense that they would find them within the one group they spend the most time around, the people in the church. On the other hand, friendships can be complicated. Is there a risk in befriending members of your congregation? That's what we want to talk about. Is there a risk? Do y'all think there's a risk? And if a pastor befriends people in the congregation, should pastors become close friends with church members? In this issue perspectives, we're going to look at two sides of this question. One argument is that pastors can and should seek out friendships among the people that attend their church. In the end, there may not be a definitive answer, but let's just talk about it. Can we just talk? Looking at the question from different angles can help us make a more informed decision on how to develop friendships as a pastor. Now, you may not be a pastor, but you might know a pastor, okay? You might have these questions about how close can I get to my pastor, all right? Pastors can and should be friends with the people who attend their churches. Consider Jesus. And now this is one viewpoint. Consider Jesus's ministry, as I just said in Matthew 11:19. People criticize him for being a friend of tax collectors and sinners. And in John 15:13 through 15, Jesus called his disciples friends. Jesus wasn't a friend to develop close relationships with those to whom he ministered. In fact, he established a paradigm of how ministers, he established a paradigm of how ministers should relate to their congregations. He traveled, watch this, he traveled with them. He ate with them. He cried with them. You know, when Lazarus died, when they brought him to the tomb, what did he do? Jesus wept. Okay? He cried. He taught them, and then he sent them out to teach. So Jesus didn't see them as servants. He treated them as friends. Pastors should do the same, because churches are a great place for people to find close friends. If you're a pastor, you're not going to go down to the bar. You ain't going to go to the casino. Come on, somebody. Looking for friends. Hello, somebody. The members of your congregation should be building relationships with one another. Each joint supplying. Many members, right? Many people in the body of Christ, all members in particular, each member has their own particular gifting and grace. Come on. Your congregation should be building relationships with one another. You can't, the head can't say to the neck, I don't need you, because how would the neck turn? Okay? The hand can't say to the arm, I don't need you. We all need one another. I need you. You need me. We're a part of God's body. So we should be building relationships with one another. You want to see them, you want to see your congregation strengthened, encouraged, because iron what? Iron sharpens iron. And you want them praying one for the other. And the congregates need to see you, pastor, bishop, apostle, modeling this type of friendship. We shouldn't be, as soon as the church is over, you gave the benediction, go running off to your office. No, go to the back of the church or shake people's hand, interact, have conversations, and look people in the eye. Some pastors have difficulty just looking people in the eye, shaking hands, okay? And maybe sometimes, giving a godly hug, like that kind of hug. You got to be careful how you hug women in the church now, because there's a whole lot of Me Too, and people feel like they're being violated. But pastors need to be intimate. They need to model this thing called friendship. As a pastor, you're not just leading a church. You are part of that church. You shouldn't be able to separate you from the church. You're the shepherd, right? If you're shepherd, thinking about a shepherd, David was a shepherd. Jesus is called the good shepherd. Think about David. He's out there in the pasture. He's the shepherd. He's taking care of the sheep. Don't you know after a while he gonna smell like the sheep? Come on, somebody. If you're the shepherd, don't you think some of that smell gonna get on you? A shepherd should smell like his sheep. They should know the sheep. They should, oh my God, when the sheep start going in the wrong direction, the shepherd should take that rod and get him back over, that staff, get him back in line, guide him, and sometimes correct him. The pastor should sometimes smell like the sheep. And you've been with the sheep. You need to, not to say that you should, take on the sins of the sheep, because guess what? Watch this now. All, meaning A-L-L, that's a small word, right? 3 letters. All have sinned and come short. That means the pastor got issues too. All right. So we're not just leading the church. We're part of the church. We are following Jesus and growing in our faith. Watch this. Right along with the people that we're serving. We're growing right along with them. So why not grow together in the context of having and building an authentic friendship? Now that's one way of looking at it. So it says, hold up one second. You should be, as the pastor, sharing interests with your sheep. Let's see where I am. It says, you are already close to those in your church. They share some of the most personal details of their lives with you. You share interests with them. And you already have a connection with them at least once a week. You get together in the same place to worship. These principles are foundational for building a healthy church. It has to do with Christ-centered, Christ-affirming truths about friendships. So watch this. Pastors face a unique dilemma, however, since figuring out where to find friends can be just as difficult as forming those relationships. Where else besides your church will you find friends who are closer, share more in common, and have a deeper faith connection? Where you going to find that? You ain't going to find it in the bar. You ain't going to find it at the casino. Where you gonna find those needs for love and for connection, for fellowship and faith in the church? So don't neglect the best circle of friendships that God has provided. That's one way of looking at it, Pastor. Don't neglect the best circle of friendships that God has already provided. He provided the church of the living God for just that thing. Equipping of the saints, helping us to grow together. What? In love and building on the fruit of the Spirit. Helping us to walk in the fruit of the Spirit together. We understand that friendships can be complicated, but any friendship can be heavy with problems and tension. But any relationship, I don't care if it's just sister to sister, brother to brother, pastor to congregant, any relationship can be volatile. Any relationship can have tension and trouble. But think about those you minister to. You often see them at their worst. Come on, pastors, think. Think about people, certain people, some people in your congregation. We sometimes see them at their worst. Sometimes it might be in the usher meeting. Sometimes it might be in the choir meeting. Sometimes it might be in the quarterly meeting. Come on. It might be at the church picnic. Sometimes, we see people at their worst when they need the most help from you. That level of vulnerability can create fear and insecurity. Whenever we stumble upon a time when people are insecure, when they're fearful, when they're angry, when there's tension, when there's problems, in the church, at meetings, various ministry events, whatever. But it's also an opportunity for freedom. You also see your church members at their best. And by being a friend first, you can share grace and hope on a whole new level with them. You can show them a picture of Jesus Christ, who is our first and our best friend. I often say, even in my own congregation, and I say it particularly about young people, about the millennials, that when they come into the church, even if they're newbies or if they've been there, you can't correct anybody's behavior until you have first loved them. You can't tell a little girl to put, to pull her blouse up, stop having all that cleavage, or take off that tight dress, or that skirt's too short, or you can't tell a young man, pull your pants up, you shouldn't come in. You have to first establish, are y'all listening to me? You have to establish a relationship with people. You have to love the people first before you start trying to give them advice or trying to change something that might be an inappropriate dress or inappropriate behavior. You have to love people. Perfect love casts out fear. Ain't nobody gonna listen to a pastor that's always critical and mean-tempered and always going off on the people. You got to establish a bond, a relationship with people. You got to love them until they feel the conviction of the Holy Spirit that says, well, I'm looking at how the pastors dress, or how the first lady and how the deacons or how some of the elders are dressed. And when I look at myself, I kind of look a little bit out of order, and you have to teach the word. That's what's not happening in our churches. We're not teaching the word, and we're not cultivating loving, friendly relationships among our people. That's why they leave. There is no difference between being friendly and being friends. There is a difference between being friendly and being friends. There's a lot of friendly pastors, a lot of friendly bishops and elders, a lot of friendly ones, but not everybody is willing, and some are not able or don't even want to be a friend with anyone in the congregation. Of course, every pastor should be friendly with congregants. A personable and a relatable minister is more effective. Do you agree? Yeah, if you're relatable, you're authentic. Come on. You have integrity. You're relatable. You can relate to the people. As I said, it's about building relationships. Jesus built relationships with people. And authentic goodwill is a foundation of any influencer. Pastors, if you want to be an influencer, you got to be authentic. Ain't nobody trying to deal with no hypocritical, I'm holier than thou, I get to boss you around, I get to tell you off in any kind of manner I feel like it. Ain't nobody swallowing that. This ain't nobody going for manipulation. No. However, when it comes to developing close relationships and friendships, pastors are well advised to look beyond the walls of their church. Here we go again. Some are saying you need to look beyond the walls of the church. If you truly value friendships and what they mean, it's incredibly difficult to pastor someone while being close friends with them. So here's that opposite, that duality again. Here's some reasons. And I don't think I talked about these reasons last time. That's why I'm dealing with this subject again. First, being friends with members of your church can lead to partiality. Even the most well-intentioned pastor can fall into this trap. Are y'all listening to me? As you spend time with a select few members, listen carefully, of your congregation, they have your ear on certain matters. Their opinions will naturally shape yours. I'm trying to help somebody tonight. Even the most well-intentioned pastor can fall into a trap as you spend time with just a few select people from your congregation, because their opinions will naturally start to shape your ideas and your opinions. But by maintaining a distance from your flock, you can remain objective in all manners of church work. Second, when you have friends in the church, you're tempted to play favorites. Anybody ever experienced that in the church? That you thought your pastor favored one person or certain groups, certain committees, certain auxiliaries, ministries over the other? Y'all be for real now. Come on. I'm waiting. Y'all ain't typing. Anybody ever happened? Anybody ever there experienced a feeling that your pastor favored a group of people or individual over other members? When others in the church see that you are spending time with one or two or even several people outside of services, they may wonder why they ain't included. Why you spending time with the Smiths and the Joneses? How come you can't spend time with the McMillans? Why you can't spend time with the Fords? Why you always going to dinner or to... Y'all ain't saying nothing. Okay. It never happened to you, right? Never happened to you. As a result, being friends with some in your church may undermine your efforts to come across as friendly at all. If you just, fraternizing with a few select people from your church, that's going to make the other people feel like, well, you don't love me. You don't care about me. I can't even get close to you. I can't have a conversation. You just pass me by going down the aisle, or you just wave your hand. You can't ask me about my son, my daughter, how they doing in school. You can't ask me how I'm doing on my job. Come on, people. Come on, people of God. You know this stuff happens in the church. I'm almost done. Finally, friendships require vulnerability. Are you ready to share your struggles with people in your church, pastor? Or I could even say bishop, apostle, prophet. Are you ready to share your intimate details about your divorce, about your addiction? Y'all ain't saying nothing. About your struggles, your insecurities, your low self-esteem. Y'all not saying anything. Are you ready to do that? Yes, you need to show openness and honesty to everyone. But, you may also need to keep details of your personal life to yourself. Clank, clank, close it. Be careful. Like I said, you cannot share your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses with everybody. Everybody will not receive your testimony. So we have to be careful. When the Bible says that you are to what? Confess your faults to one another. You got to be careful with that. Got to be careful. Even when you go to the altar, when they do the altar call, you got to be careful. Because actually, that's between you and the Lord. The pastor don't even have to know everything, all of your stuff. Confess your faults to one another, yes. And I think that when we're talking about that, if you offend somebody, if you just mean and low down and nasty, I don't think it's talking about your secret sins. All right, I may be wrong. But like I said, everybody can't receive your testimony because some people will not follow you. You're going to tell somebody you used to be involved in sex trafficking, and you're going to think that Sister Sally is going to bring her 10 children to your church. Her daughters, she got all daughters. You think she going to bring, because you done said, I used to be a sex trafficker, but I got converted. I got saved. I spent a few years, and you think they're coming to your church? Let's get real. Come on, church. They're not coming. They're not. Soon as they hear that, they're going to be gone in a split second. You can't tell everything. That's why the song says, I must tell Jesus all of my troubles. I cannot bear this burden alone. I cannot tell Deacon Tom, Deacon Sally, Deaconess Rose. No, I must tell Jesus. I'm passionate about that because my mentor, she had to school me on that. Even when I went to Africa and I was ministering to those widows over there, she cautioned me about you can't tell everything. because they're not going to receive your testimony. Some things you don't tell. You just keep it to yourself. Tell Jesus. He won't tell nobody. Okay? Because some of these pastors got loose lips. These pastors will tell other pastors, and then they'll tell other pastors. They'll tell their deacons. They'll tell their deaconess. They'll tell their first lady. Y'all ain't saying nothing. You may also need to keep your details of your personal life to yourself. Not to hide sin, of course, but to protect your name, to protect your family. That can make for a somewhat one-sided, inauthentic relationship. That's why I caution you, be careful, because you may not want to have close relationships with people. You may not want to have BFFs among your congregants, because that could be one-sided. When you have BFFs, you share things. You share some stuff, they share some stuff, and you share it in confidentiality. You got to be able to trust that what you're saying to that person, it ain't going to go no further than that. And sometimes, loose lips sink ships, and they sink ministries too, by the way. They mess up pastors and pastorates too. They mess up relationships between pastor and first lady, pastor and wife too. Okay? That's why this is important. Pastors do need close friends. How do you find that level of relationship with those who understand and can relate to you? The best place, again, to look is not in your own church, pastors, but in other churches. Seek out and develop friendships with other pastors and ministers. That might require some creativity, such as developing long distance relationships on dual, on online types of friendships, especially if they're in one state, you're in another state, we're in one country, you're in another country. You got to be creative. You got to think of a way. That's why all pastors need a pastor, right? Pastor, Christian Dynamics, pastors need pastors. We need somebody to be accountable to. We can't just be lone rangers. We gotta have an accountability partner. We have to have people that are, and some cannot just be on the same level. They need to be at another level. Or they could just be somebody that you can call up and say, hey doc, hey sis, I gotta run this by you. No man is an island, or no woman is an island. No man stands alone. We need friends, but sometimes we should not pick them from our congregants. All right. Having a person close to you who understands your position and can be a safe sounding board for all your struggles is invaluable. You need confidants. I taught that before. I taught that about the 3 types of friends. You need your confidants. Those people that are going to love you, whether you smell good or you don't, whether whatever, they just going to love you. They're going to love on you. They're going to be there for you. When you call them, they're going to answer. If they didn't get back to you right away, they're going to get to you. They're going to sit there. They're going to cry with you. They're going to celebrate with you. They're not going to hate on you. They're going to support you. They're going to be there. But you got to be able to identify them. Everybody does not fit that mode, okay? But when you find one, that's invaluable. That's like gold, okay? How can you walk together except to agree? How can you walk together? You got to know those that labor among you. You got to know that the person that you're choosing, they have traits that might not be exactly like yours. But when you get together, iron sharpens iron. You accept them for who they are. If the Bible says if one falls down, the other one can pick the other one up. So pastors need friends. It's just not good to have them in your to pick those in your congregation, because people are looking at us all the time. They know if we favor one or over the other. Sometimes we try to hide it, but people have perception and they have discernment too, and they begin to feel left out, not important. And then what do? They pick up and leave. They don't even tell you they're going. They're just gone, right? Again, having a person close to you who understands you, pastor, in your position, and they can be a safe sounding board for your struggles, that's invaluable. We need those type of people in our lives. But it just might be that we don't, try to find them in our own congregation. That's why sometimes I think that, if you have a single woman or a single man that's a pastor of a church, I know I'm going to get in trouble now. Pastor Titus or Pastor Gloria. Sometimes it's not good to find your wife in your, Jesus. Should I say it? Should I say it? Should I say it, Ellen? Should I say it, Dee Dee? Should I say it, Sharonda? Sometimes it's not good to find your husband or your wife in your church. Y'all ain't giving me no hearts. Sometimes you need to go, if you're single and you've been single for a while, or you're divorced or whatever, sometimes it's not good to pick your wife from your church, from your home church. Sometimes it's good to go outside your church. Y'all ain't saying nothing. And those people that want to date, hello. Sometimes y'all ain't saying nothing. Y'all ain't want to be real. Sometimes it's not good to date people that's in your own church because you don't know who else been dating that person. And maybe you might be okay, y'all don't want to be real. Sometimes you don't know as a pastor who's friends, who are friends with other friends, and people start dating. You have congregants start dating, pastors start dating, this, that, and the other. Before you know, you done dated somebody else in that church, and they done dated somebody, and it gets to be a hot mess. That's another reason pastors have to be very careful, especially us single pastors. We got to be careful who we are friends with. Again, that's another reason picking your close friendships outside of your local church. I hope I'm helping somebody tonight. I'm done. I'm done. We're kind of looked at two things. It's a duality. It's kind of like 50-50. Yes, we should emulate Jesus because he is that kind of friend. He was a friend to the friendless, okay? Those that other people just shunned and wouldn't have anything to do with. Think about the woman that was caught in adultery. Okay? Think about the demoniac. All right? Think about the woman that was at the well that had all them wives. And he says, I must go through Samaria. Not a choice. I must go. And he waited for that woman because he knew he had an appointment with her. All right? He had Peter, James, and John. Peter, close friend. But Peter denied him 3 times. But he knew he had gold. He had struck gold in Peter. He just had to work with Peter. They were friends. They were close friends. So that's the duality. Because we want to be like Jesus. We want to embrace people. We want to love people. But you know what? You can't do that with everybody in the congregation. You just can't. Judas was one of them 12. Hello, somebody. Judas held the money. He was the treasurer. Judas betrayed Jesus. Jesus knew all along what was going to happen. But remember, he was among the 12 that he called them friends. He was there. That's why we have to walk in discernment. We have to be wise as a serpent, but humble, as gentle as a dove. As pastors, we got to be careful. So I was just here to give you some advice so you can see the duality in both, having the nature and the quality and the love of God, because God has provided this great thing called the church, where we can gather together, we can love on each other, our faith can be perfected, we can grow together. Yeah, pastors grow along with their congregation. I am not near the person that I was when I first started. Don't forget to say your prayers. I had to calm my little self down a whole lot. I had to continue to love people and also be able to, kind of keep my distance too. So my BFFs are not in the church. They're outside of the church. But there are still people that I am close to in the church. Because when you love God, when you truly love God, you can't help it as a pastor loving the people if you have the heart of God. And I've asked God, give me your heart, God, I want to be a pastor after your own heart. And so it's hard not to love the people. All right. But we must, again, use wisdom and be careful. All right. I hope y'all got something out of this tonight. I hope I was making myself clear tonight, We talked about, should pastors be close friends with church members? This was kind of like part 2. I don't know how you feel about it, but you can hit me up on my Facebook page. You can write a comment. You know, the first part, when I did it 2 weeks ago, the question was why the pastor actually is not your friend. But today I wanted to kind of bring that message back, so we can kind of hear both sides of the issue, because I did get response from the initial one that I said, and this person was kind of really objective, like, well, why can't the pastor be, we're supposed to be like Jesus and blah, 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 blah. So I can see that side too. But I can also see, and I've also been on the other side before I was a pastor, before I even was a minister, I could see sometimes in churches where I only been involved in 2 churches, where I felt kind of like on the outside looking in, that, there were pastors that had certain families that they associated with, or they fellowship with more than some of the other people. And sometimes those relationships just naturally happen. Sometimes. But then there's some congregants. Now, y'all help me out. There's some people that have ulterior motives when it comes to the pastor, and they throw out the red carpet. They throw out this, and they try to ingratiate the pastor and the first lady, and they, try to be friends with them. And some of them have an ulterior motive. And you know what, y'all looking at me. Y'all looking at me strange. I don't really see your face, but I can feel y'all. I can see it on the side. Y'all looking at me strange, like y'all don't know what I'm talking about. Because some people have alternative motives for wanting to be friends with the pastor. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. You ain't even got to give me hearts. Been there, done there, got a t-shirt. I seen it in both of the churches that I belonged in. People have ulterior motives. They don't really want to be the pastor's friend. They just want to, okay, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to say good night to you because y'all don't want to be honest. I guess if I was doing a watch party, maybe I'd get a little more interaction, but this is not the watch party. But anyway, I hope that you all will share this video. I always download them to YouTube. You can find out you can find on my YouTube channel, Lydia Ford International Ministries, the other stories, the other lessons that we talked about. We've talked about so many things now on Facebook. We talked about 25 ways to build strong friendships, 9 habits of people who build extraordinary relationships. We talked about how to cultivate friendships in your life. We talked about when to let go, how to let go of some friends, how to cope when your friend breaks up with you, how to get away from toxic friendships. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about traveling with your friends, tips for having a terrific trip instead of a horrible trip. We talked about a lot of things on this BFF Monday session. So I hope it's helping you. I'm going to put together some modules, some lessons, and put together a PDF so that all of those things will be in one place, and I'll create, a document with have some questions. It can be kind of interactive, and you can use them in your ministry, at your church, or just with your friends, and just discuss these questions and these topics. Anyway, I'm gone. Again, this has been Lydia Ford, pastor. Don't forget to say your prayers. International, located in Bloomfield, Connecticut. I am I won't say your friendship expert, but I'm here to kind of give you a different perspective on how to build fruitful relationships, because that's what it's all about. We all need friends. I thank God for the friends that I have. I thank God for the friends that He's given me. I thank God for the friendships that I have developed in ministry, like with Christian Dynamics and other pastors that in the Greater Hartford area. Not all, but I have some close friendships with some pastors in the Greater Hartford area, and I do value those friendships. So I thank you all for coming on tonight. Again, I am an author. I do bereavement counseling. I will be coming back this week to talk about miscarriage, which is something that many people do not minister on and talk about it. I can talk about it because I've had 2. I went through 2, so I know what I'm talking about. And I'm just going to talk about that particular area of loss, because I think we need to deal with that one in the church and in secular and in the marketplace as well. But anyway, my books are available on Amazon. I also have them available. I'm trying to get rid of these last few books that I have. So if you're interested, tonight I'm going to have 3 books available for $35. My first book, Don't Forget to Say Your Prayers, Carest Thou Not That I Perish in the Midst of the Storm, and From Broken Bread to Poured Out Wine. If you like the package, it's $35 tonight. My Cash App is Anointed720. If you'd like to get the 3 tonight for $35, please inbox me. Also, if you want to get them individually tonight, I'm going to sell them for the smaller book. I'll sell for $5. The other one's for $10. The 2 bigger books for $10. Don't forget to say your prayers and carest thou not that I perish. $10 tonight, and $7 for the $5 for From Broken Bread to Poured Out Wine. Anyway, good night. Thank you all for stopping by, and please share this video. Share, because sharing is caring. And go and look at the other ones that are on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. You can see some of my other videos that are downloaded there. Bye. Good night.